think of when I say the date September 11th, 2001? You should probably think of the terrorist attack that struck America. You probably remember exactly where you were, and you probably remember stories about people, thousands of people that died, and millions that were affected and afraid. But most people don't know that in 2009, the Congress deemed September 11th the National Day of Service and Remembrance, and encouraged you to volunteer in your community to remember those fallen on that tragic day. Although that was 4 years ago, and in a study done in early 2013, it was shown that 26.4% of the population admits to volunteering on a regular basis. Now, this hasn't changed since the day that Congress deemed September 11th the National Day of Service and Remembrance. This is according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. You are needed as a volunteer. Volunteers affect us all, whether it's the man down the street who serves in the Army to protect our country, the person who holds the door open for you, or someone that carries something for you. We're all affected. I have been a volunteer in my local church, and I have served over 400 hours there in the children's ministry in my local church. I have also served over 200 hours in my local FCA, and several other 100 hours in other local opportunities. In the next few minutes, I'm going to talk to you about why we need volunteers, how and why you need to be a volunteer, and what's going to happen when you volunteer. Why do we need volunteers? First off, organizations don't have a lot of money, so you volunteering saves an organization money, according to Jeanette Nagy. And also, there's a shortage of volunteers in your local community, and if you truly desire to watch your community grow and change, then you should be involved in volunteering. According to an article written in the LA Times in 2010, hundreds of people were turned away from their medical needs in a local health clinic. The reason for this was because there was a shortage of medical personnel volunteers, and there weren't enough volunteers to supply the needs for those who needed medical health, or who needed medical assistance. In 2011, an Ohio fire chief stepped forward and said that there weren't enough firefighter volunteers locally and nationally. Also, in an article written by Ray Rossi discusses that in New Jersey, there aren't enough emergency volunteers so that people aren't getting the medical needs they need in a quick amount of time. Without volunteers, medical needs wouldn't be met. Homeless shelters and soup kitchens would cease to exist. Organizations wouldn't be able to fight for their causes. Natural disasters, devastation would only prevail. Children wouldn't know how to read. Our country wouldn't be safe, and communities wouldn't be safe. And basically, it would be catastrophic, according to Reed Sandridge. So what are we going to do about this? How are we going to supply those volunteers so that we keep our community safe and our nation safe overall? That's where you come in. You are needed as a volunteer. Everyone needs to be involved in some sort of volunteering activity, and that's something that I encourage you to do. But you don't need to serve thousands of hours of volunteer work every year. Just giving small amounts of your time, weekly or monthly, is going to be a great way that you can volunteer. First off, identify your strengths. According to the Volunteers of America, everybody has a strength that they can offer when volunteering. So think of your strengths. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to volunteermatch.org, type in your strengths, or you can click on an area that you feel led to serve in or volunteer in. Or you can actually go local and look at local organizations and ask them where you can get involved in volunteering. And when you find a place that you want to volunteer in and you have an opportunity that you would like to volunteer in, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you know the date, time, and place you're volunteering, and arrive on time. Last off, have fun. When you volunteer, have fun and enjoy it, but also be available to help at any time. Now, some people have some objections against volunteering. Some people say they don't have enough time. Rather, sponsorchange.org says that we invent new ways to waste time all day, and by the end of the day, we wonder where all that time went. And according to Mia Maestro, she says that if something means something to you, then you'll make time for it. Second off, 28.9% of people that are employed were stated that they volunteer on a regular basis. Rather, only 22% of unemployed people said that they volunteered on a regular basis. Unemployed people have more time to volunteer, which means that this percentage needs to go up. And those of us that are employed full-time, you can see here that people employed full-time were able to organize their schedules to make time for volunteering. So you can see that others had time to volunteer, even full-time employees. Also, a second objection that people make is that they don't want to try something new. They feel uncomfortable. According to banexcuses.com, trying something new can be difficult at first. But when you volunteer, you are going to learn new skills. You're going to be able to network. You can build your resume. You can gain experience. You can build something bigger than yourself, and you can have fun, according to William Murray. And you're not going to regret it in the end. Now that I've talked to you about how and why you should get volunteered and why volunteers are so important, let's look at the outcomes. Volunteering can benefit yourself and your community and can teach you a new skill, like I just said before. It can help you make friends. It can also be great for your resume because it shows an employer that you're willing to work without being paid, yet still have self-discipline. Volunteering also grows your community, and it grows your community closer and to have better ethics. Jimmy Carter, former president, stated when he was asked about volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, he said that, "But what you'll find is that the sacrifice actually is a blessing. I know this because I've learned the secret that so many other Habitat for Humanity volunteers have learned. You always get much more out of the work than you put in." And as I said before, without volunteering, our world would be a catastrophe. Things wouldn't get done, needs wouldn't get met, and thousands of people would be just as upset as they were on September 11th. The devastation would occur after natural disasters, and different things wouldn't be able to happen, and organizations wouldn't be able to fight for their causes, as I said before. Now that you know why volunteers are so important, how and why you need to be a volunteer, and lastly, what's going to happen when you volunteer or if you don't volunteer, you should be able to volunteer, and you should be able to get involved in your local community and volunteer in some way. You don't have to be a doctor, a dentist, a carpenter to build something, or you don't even have to be former President Jimmy Carter to volunteer in your local community and to get involved. I encourage you to get involved, and if it means something to you, you'll make time for it.